Session's canceled because the GM keeps hanging out with these fake friends that he keeps saying are real, and we told him he's not allowed to hang out with them anymore, but he keeps doing it. So we're currently on a mission to go kill them. Until then, though, Session's canceled. And you know who you are if you hear this. You know who you are. What?
I know who you're calling out, and even I'm fucking flabbergasted, dude.
What? Listen. The person in question just needs to stop hanging out and abandoning us for these not real friends. They're not real people. We told him he's not allowed to talk to them anymore. So listen.
Holy fuck, dude.
What? Am I wrong?
I just don't have the words.
Words for what? To say I'm right?
You know those same people listen to us, right?
Yeah, but they don't know if those same people don't know if I'm talking about them. See, there's enough ambiguity here that only the person getting called out should really know who I'm talking about.
True, that's fair. There is about like 6 friend groups that I know of that listen to us, so that's fair.
I could be calling out quite a few people, but the person knows. They know.
Jesus Christ. I mean, next time we speak to them, yeah, they will let us know for sure.
They'll know.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
Oh, dude.
Back on that grindset mindset, you know what I'm saying, big dog? Skibbity boop. Something
yep.
About toilets or whatever.
You know, I've never seen that fucking video.
It's not one video, so.
Oh, is it not?
It's fine. A incredibly long series with history and lore.
Is it seriously?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Skibbity toilets. It's a deep rabbit hole. Didn't start that way, but it's become one.
Did you see they made a toy out of it? How the fuck can you do that? Like, the assets to that are owned by fucking Valve. Are you not going to get sued into oblivion?
I don't know. Great question. I don't know. I did not know that, and now that I do know that information, and I wish I didn't know that information, so thanks for that.
Kind of wild, isn't it?
Thanks for bringing me up to the brain rot.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's good.
My best.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We're back, and we said we weren't going to talk about Fabula Ultima more. That was a lie. We lied to you.
Yeah, so that was a fucking lie.
That was a lie because I decided it was a lie.
This is true. This is the thing he sprung on me.
I turned Isaiah into a liar. It's really what happened. But, you know.
Well, it's okay. To be fair, I was like, I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but if Josh wants to on his episodes, he can. And you did.
Yeah. So here we are.
This man
Part
must be stopped.
3.
Fucking 3, baby.
Because I just wanted to talk about. So, Fabula Ultima has a couple of supplements out. Two big ones, and then a couple of small little free ones. And the 2 big ones are the high fantasy source book and the techno fantasy source book. And I don't know, I just wanted to talk about the high fantasy source book because I thought it was interesting, but also because the Atlas of High, sorry, that's right. They call it the Atlas of whatever. So Atlas of High Fantasy in this case. Kind of just feels like an extension of the main game. It doesn't necessarily feel like a different source book. I don't know if you picked up on that per se.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So techno fantasy feels like a different book.
Different. Yeah. This one, not so much. Because arguably Fabula Ultima's default shit is already pretty high fantasy. Sorry, I just got I looked at the text message and it confused me. Anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I wanted to bring up also the high fantasy book adds a couple of mechanical things that you could, I feel like, just slap on the regular game, no problem. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I'll just sort of start from the top here. I'm not going to go through every nook and cranny of this because there's not really any reason to. But we'll go through the new bits and then pick a couple of things out. So it starts with a little like, what defines high fantasy as a genre convention? I don't know. I find this kind of funny, not because it's necessarily bad information or whatever, but just because as someone who play a lot of the fantasy games, a lot of this just feels like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock to me. So reading through it, I was kind of like...
It's very basic, and it seems to be purposefully so.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. So it just for the sake of the headers, it says high fantasy means a lot of things, even in the world of JRPGs. In this book, in Fabula Ultima more broadly, the term indicates several elements that the author feels represent a specific way of building stories and settings. Okay. In brief, we're discussing the author's personal visions, which do not claim to be the absolute truth. Indeed, narrative games have nebulous boundaries and be impossible, maybe even irresponsible to box them in too much. Yeah, I mean, it is impossible. So here's like kind of the boxes. Here's what here's what the creator of the game thinks you should do with high fantasy stuff. Be good to the bone, which is the idea that the player characters, yeah, the player characters are, you know, so they're like unquenchably good. They're Captain America levels of good. They're so good. It's like
Shonen
over the
pro
top.
tags / Captain America.
Yes, Shonen Pro Tag is, yes, it's very, yeah. I mean, shit, even most of the Final Fantasy Pro Tag, actually all the Final Fantasy, is there any of the Final Fantasy Pro Tags that are like ambiguous on that front? Not really.
You could make a Cecil, whatever the fuck.
Cecil starts that way, but then by the end he's not.
Yeah, by the end he's not. Squall, but it's mainly because Squall's whole thing is his like unyielding indifference towards the universe.
Yes, but he's still on the inside, like unshakable good guy goodness, you know?
Yeah, that he's the difficult one because it's like he wants to do the right thing, but also he's just too depressed to really give a whole lot of a shit about a lot of things.
He do have the big depress. That's very true. The big depression. But yeah, it's you know, how does it phrase it? Yeah, good to the point of being idealized. They always hesitate before wounding or killing, consider violence their last resort, and forego all forms of opportunism. With the exception being the tortured hero, which I guess is sort of kind of maybe what Squall is.
Yes.
Then it says have extraordinary traits, which is pretty much
closer to Cecile.
Yeah, I guess so. Close, but have extraordinary traits, which is pretty much what it sounds like. You know, be over the top, right? Magical wings, angel powers, punch through walls, you know, that kind of shit. Wear your heart on your sleeve. This one I think is kind of funny because it's like the idea of that, like, you know, in high fantasy, the main characters tend to be very emotional and it's very upfront emotional. They don't, you know, it's like their shtick is their shtick. And this just makes me think of Titus and how he just wants to be the bros with like everyone. And he's so like, he tries so hard to be so good natured about everything. And then he finds out that like his entire objective is to protect Yuna from a really protect Yuna until she can execute on a really complicated suicide note. Which is, and then he's like existential crisis.
He's like, wait, no, what?
But I was the good guy.
Well, he's like, hey guys, you want to play Blitzball? And then all of his friends are like, I'm here to kill someone in particular.
Yes.
Like literally all of them. And he's like, yeah, guys, but like Blitzball. And you're like, I just. And then we got Discover a Hidden World.
discover a hidden world. I mean, do you need explanation on that? One's pretty straight, right? Like, discover weird, like the big twist at the end. Titus was never alive. Spoilers. You know, that shit. I love it. Challenge destiny and the divine. I feel like you could just rephrase this one as kill God. Just kill God.
Kill God. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Kill God, because that's usually what you do. You know, what that meme from forever ago where it's the little 3-panel comic and it's, or like 2-panel comic, it's like level 1 RPG character, rescue kitty cat, level 99, kill God.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, pretty much. And then he mentions a couple of, so it's funny too, because he specifically calls out 10 and 4, because he mentions a couple of references that he was sort of basing this book on, which is Bravely Default, Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10, and Tales of Arise. I don't know enough about Tales of Arise. I have heard a little bit about Bravely Default, but 4, 9, and 10, I think both obviously work. Especially because in Final Fantasy 10, the entire premise is fuck religion. Shit sucks,
the church
bro.
is bad, actually.
Yeah, the church is bad, yeah. Do you remember the meme?
10 really...
Do you remember the Heaven's Word meme, Isaiah? Where it's like, guy grabs mic tentatively, church bad, and everyone goes, oh, yeah. Dragons cool? And everyone's like, yes. The church fucking sucks because they won't let you fuck dragons.
Yeah. And then everyone like
raucous, violent applause. That's a good
church bad because they won't let you fuck dragons.
Yeah. Listen, if anyone ever wants to be like, what's Heaven's Word about? You just show them that image. That's all you need to know.
Accurate.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 10. Church bad because they won't let you fuck dragons or monsters.
Yeah, let me fuck my giant scaly aliens.
Yeah. What's the big deal? And then it mentions, and then it's the high fantasy pillars, which are sort of a rewrite of the 8 pillars. Again, not anything surprising to me. So it's like ancient ruins and harsh lands, which is like, yeah, ancient magical forest or like magical city, beneath the sands. A world in peril, yeah, right. God or Satan or whatever threatens to blow everything up. The usual. Clashing communities, which is again kind of the like church bad vibe, right? That sort of thing, like idealistic clash. Everything has a soul, which is just every Final Fantasy game ever basically uses that one. Actually, he literally says the stream of souls is crucial to. Oh no, okay, never mind. I thought he literally called out Final Fantasy. He does not, but yeah, he's like.
I expected the live stream to come up at some point.
Yeah, I mean the live stream. It's called something different in every Final Fantasy game, but like the live stream is like ever present. So, yeah.
What do they call it in 14 again?
It's just the etheric sea.
That's it.
Yeah. And then you have the aspects of magic and technology, which again, from a Final Fantasy standpoint, right? Like high magic and magitech are almost always a thing. Heroes of many shapes and sizes. You have your Vivi and your Zidane, but also your clouds, that kind of shit. It's all about the heroes, which is true, but sometimes just feels, when you point it out, feels a little goofy. That vibe of like everything seems to revolve around the protagonist very conveniently, or the people in the protagonist's immediate circle, right? But it's true.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it for more than a couple seconds, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but
what the fuck are the odds of that? And, yeah, don't worry about it.
Not very high, but don't worry about it. It's the Avatar thing where it's like, what are the chances that the Avatar hangs out with the great-grandson of the previous Avatar, whose dad is also the Fire Lord? Like, what are the chances? But, like, whatever, it's fine. Spoilers for The Last Airbender, I guess.
Spoilers for a 15-year-old series.
Well, yeah, but also I was kind of vague about it, so you might not even necessarily get what I mean anyway. And then...
I feel old.
Do I feel old? I mean, I'm rewatching Avatar right now, so like just rewatching it made me feel old enough. So no, not any older than I was already feeling.
I see.
By rewatching Korra and Last Airbender. And then mystery, discovery, growth. I mean, I don't even want to describe that one. Just take those 3 words. That's all you need. All you need. Then there's some advice stuff. It's like avoid protagonist syndrome, because in high fantasy stories, often, you have your singular protagonist, the avatar, as it were, who are, sort of, like, again, everything revolves around them, but this is a tabletop game, so you have to have it revolve around the 4 people. So just be careful about that. It also specifically calls out, I don't know if you read through the quirks, but the Ruinbringer and the Glorious Fate quirk, did you read those two?
I have, yeah.
So
Paladin really likes the quirks, so it's a pretty common topic of conversation.
Yeah, so those 2 in particular are kind of insane, because they basically do kind of make your character the main character, but also they sort of force the GM's hand in that you have to deal with this aspect of this character. Like, you cannot, there's no ignoring it. They're gonna do this crazy thing. You know what I mean? Like, they are the chosen one or whatever.
Yeah, I actually, so I guess we'll get to it in a second, but I really want your opinion on the quirks.
Okay. I mean, is it something, are you thinking I'm gonna be not a fan?
No, I just want like because some of them are like, you're right, they're crazy. Some of them are like, a little less interesting. Some are more interesting, and some of them are just like game changing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're a robot, it's like, okay, you're a robot, man. And then you have fucking Ruinbringer, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll get there. So, and then actually, it gives you...
Yeah, so are you going to keep going through like the tips thing that they talk about?
Yes, I mean, very briefly, but yeah, why?
Because I wanted to kind of yuck about the fucking archetypes and stereotypes thing.
Oh. Yeah, so it's like, it mentioned, so complicated and rigid plots. It's like, have your, there's twists and revelations and stuff, but don't go too crazy, because Fabula points can kind of throw a wrench in things, so keep your ideas a little flexible. I would say that's true of any tabletop game, but especially in this case where you have a sort of meta-narrative currency. And then weird divine and immutable powers, it mentions. Basically, let your players kill God is kind of what this is saying. The people of high fantasy tales often worship a great variety of gods. However, one of Fabula Ultima's premises is even the most formidable entities should be limited somehow. These beings may have accrued immense power, but they can still be bested by those with enough courage and loyal allies. Let your players kill God is really what that one's
getting at. I think this is a really important one.
It's very on genre. It is kind of a main crux of the genre, I would say, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, you can't because I know that there's like this impetus, right? This like desire to be like, yes, but my final bad guy is this super cool, unstoppable, undefeatable, whatever. And then people might lose the plot and be like, well, they are supposed to be beatable, so like make them cool and strong or whatever. But like, don't be surprised if the players want to kill them.
It is literally, I mean, it's a meme for a reason, right? The joke of like level 1 save kitten, level 100 kill God. Like, it's a meme for a reason, because it's such a genre trope. And usually the point, like from a writing and or storytelling narrative perspective, the point of the trope is that, you're fighting. God, I really want to give an example, but it's Final Fantasy 14, and I don't want to get into specifics too much because I know you haven't seen it, but like, we'll use 10. So like the whole premise in 10, right, is that sin is, I mean, they were very on the nose with that one. Sin is sin, right? Like, he is the concept of sin. So when Titus arrives, I'm just going to spoil everything in Final Fantasy X, so like, I don't know, skip ahead 5 minutes maybe. When Titus arrives in Spira, it's like everybody is just accepting the status quo and is like, we can't defeat sin because he is this like concept of evil, so we have to just keep sacrificing people and doing our best and just accepting the status quo. And then Titus rocks up and he's like, that's fucking dumb, why don't you just kill his ass? And everyone goes, because you can't, Titus. And he goes, I bet I'ma do it then. And then he does. So it's like, that's literally,
he's like, that sounds like bitch behavior to me.
Yeah. Sounds like you ain't trying hard enough. So it's like, that is literally the concept in a high fantasy game, is you are fighting this embodiment of ultimate evil. You're fighting the embodiment of sin, and you're saying, fuck the status quo, you know, be gay, do crimes, change the world, right? Like that kind of energy.
Yes.
So you kind of have to, if you're playing in this style of game, it's like you have to let your characters, your players kill sin. Like that's the point.
Yeah, it's
long-winded rant, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's the I think another really good example is the Persona 5, where it's like, you can't kill God, and it's like, well, I can if I just tell him to go fuck himself. And the GM's like, wait, whoa, what?
If I just ignore the rules completely. If I just say, fuck your rules.
Yeah. Like, what if I wanna? Like, you can't. It's like, but what if I just do it? What?
I mean, Jesus Christ. Persona 3, you're like, the concept of death? Yeah, that's kind of lame. Fuck that shit. You're like, what?
I mean, you don't, that one's weird because you don't actually kill Nyx, you just gotta stuff her in a locker, basically.
Yes, but it's the similar energy of like, fuck death, like I could do what I want, bitch. Like, you know, it's that rebellious energy. Whether you succeed or not. But you had something to say about the archetypes and stereotypes bit?
Yeah, I kind of take umbrage with this. I respect it. I understand why it's there. But I don't know. To me, this is the what was the one that they bring up? So the first one is like, that I do agree with completely, is if you want to build characters based on real world figures, do your research so they're not just like boring archetypal, like, you know, they're not just boring stereotypes, right? Like, and don't
generic racist, you know, samurai guy.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, if you have a samurai, don't do the stereotypical Japanese accent because it's a little fucked.
Yep.
Yeah, don't do that. But the thing for me, what do they talk about? The cruel and sensational antagonist, a perverse and diabolical villain whose appearance does not conform to the gendered expectations in the real world we live in. Don't you come after my magnificent bastards. Fuck you. They are icons. Let Ursula be the villain. Fuck you.
Yeah, so
I think that the thing
hold on,
is...
Pause, because you didn't actually explain what the sections say.
Oh, yeah.
So, the context that Isaiah's explained. Basically, the game is saying, be careful about being stereotypical when you're dealing with, you know, real world religions or like real world places or whatever, right? So if you have a character who's a ninja or a samurai or a witch or a Viking, it's like, try to be respectful of the concept, you know, do some looking up, be interested in it, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, obviously you're not going to do it perfectly, but also it's your game at your table. So like nobody's going to judge you on it anyway. So it doesn't really, you don't need to be that perfect. Just try. And then the second bit is saying like, this little second chapter almost feels like it's very specifically calling out queer coded villains like directly.
It is absolutely calling out queer coded villains.
Yeah. So it's saying avoid subverting stereotypes that moralize the body. For example, do not make all heroes young, athletic, and conventionally attractive, while all the enemies are grotesque caricatures. Also pay attention to harmful tropes related to gender, social relations, or clothing. A maternal and timid female hero, an aggressive tribal warrior, a cruel and sensational antagonist, or a perverse and diabolical villain whose appearance does not conform to the gender expectations of the real world. So it's like, it's the thing of like, don't have your, don't play your really generic, obvious
I got it. I
Cinderella
got it.
character.
Ready for this?
Okay.
Okay. Don't make your villain evil because they're queer. Make them queer because they're evil. No, I'm joking. But like, if you pay respect to these things, there's no reason why you shouldn't. Don't feel afraid to do it as long as you do it from a place of like genuine interest. Right? If you really like Dr. Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show, do it because you like that character. Don't do it because you don't like gay people. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
But don't be afraid to do it again, as long as it's genuine.
Yeah, the reason it's even a problem is because often, right? Because it also mentions the a maternal and timid female hero, an aggressive tribal warrior, right? It's what it's calling out is characters who get made stereotypically because the people who made the stereotypical character have a negative opinion of that thing, right? So the whole reason the queer-coded villain exists is because back in the day, people had, negative opinions of the queer. I say back in the day, like this isn't, still a problem, but it's less of a problem.
Yeah, still not currently a problem. Yeah.
Right. It's less of a problem. But the point is, like, there's certain people in Hollywood who had a negative opinion of the queer people, right? So they looked at them and were like,
I like that catch, the queer people.
I don't know what, I actually don't know what that was a catch of because my tongue just got tied. So it wasn't really a catch of anything.
Oh, I see. Okay.
What did you think I was catching?
Say the queers.
The queers? Oh, I mean, whatever. I'll say that too at this point. Who the fuck cares? But what I'm saying. So like the reason it's a problem is because like you have an asshole director who thinks gay people are bad, right? So he makes his villain character gay to be like, see, look at the gay people doing bad things because villain, right? Like that's why it's a problem. In the same way as the maternal timid female hero is like, look, women can be heroes, but only if they're in a maternal role can they be hero. And if in the aggressive tribal warrior, oh yeah, like the berserker guy is cool, but he's tribal and uncivilized, so he's cool, but he doesn't know how to dress himself, and he's a weirdo, and maybe he does bad things to women, right? It's like it's all of that. It's that xenophobia energy. So that's why it's a problem. However, if you as the GM are like, I just want to make my main villain an angry lesbian because I just have a really good like fanfic of her and her girlfriend in my head or whatever, then like that's not the same thing. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Am I making sense?
Yeah, that's yes. That's what we're both trying to say is don't feel dissuaded if you feel like you're coming from a genuine place. There's this like, and I'm bringing this up because there's like, you see these opinions all the time where it's like, wait, but I did this thing. Does that mean I'm bad? And it's like, no. Because there was no intent, right? There has to be intent to these things.
There's also a context to it too. Like the shitty Hollywood director was doing it in a negative context, like on purpose, Yeah. So it's like, there's some shit going on there. I mean, Jesus Christ, Arcane. I mean, I won't spoilers, but like Arcane did it very recently. So like, and nobody's complaining about it.
Yes, and that for a while, Caitlyn was very villain coded, and she was definitely very lesbian coded. So yeah,
she was both of those things. Not who I was thinking of, but yes, she was both of those things.
I love Caitlyn so much.
I think it's very funny that everyone loves Caitlyn now because Caitlyn in League of Legends, both as a champion that people played and also from a lore standpoint, was fucking ass and nobody gave a shit about her.
Damn, that is tough, brother.
It's true. Like, she was not fun to play against. She was a boring ass AD carry that you didn't want to play against and wasn't really that fun to play because she was so easy. And lore wise, she was fucking boring because she was just like weird slutty cop. Like that was it. Like they made her into a character. She was not a character before. They like made her an actual character.
I see.
The OG League homies know. Trust me. I mean, granted, you could say that about quite a lot of the old League characters. A lot of them were really not characters or very shitty characters. So, you know, but Caitlyn was pretty bad. I mean, her old design is fucking atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, I shit on old Caitlyn's design quite a bit, and I think it's very fairly so.
Yeah, they fixed it. I don't think people don't. The Arcane homies don't even know how much they fixed that shit. Goddamn.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Go look up anyone who's only seen Arcane and doesn't play League and doesn't know. Go look up old Caitlyn splash art. Just go take a look. Anyway, so after the archetypes and stereotypes, then it mentions one-dimensional villains, which is to say, you know, don't make them boring, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, like, give them a modus operandi, like, yeah. And even like, I think this is something else I wanted to bring up because I saw this too. And I do agree with it, but I think that the importance there is the context. If your villain is one-dimensional, at least have that one dimension be deep, right? We were literally talking about Xenos last episode, being like, yeah, is he kind of one-dimensional? But that one dimension is about as deep as the fucking ocean.
Well, and it's actually, he's one-dimensional and objective, but not necessarily one-dimensional in like how he got there. Right?
Yes.
Like, there's that part to it. So that, you know, there's a couple ways you could come at it. And then we get in I'm going to try and avoid doing this too much because, you know, audio format, but there's this sick art piece of like an Atlantis looking city. And there's like big,
I love that art.
The thorn shark in the background, and in the foreground, coming from the top, there's what just looks like straight up Final Fantasy Leviathan. Yeah, just whole hog. Looks dope as shit.
I'm really happy that we shared a bunch of brain cells on this. That's Leviathan.
It's just Leviathan. All the art. What I realized is that the reason the art is so like cohesive in this book is because there's two artists. One guy did the chibis, and one guy did everything else. That's it.
Oh, really? That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Anyway, so then it talks about the world. It gives a bunch. So I'm not going through all these, but it gives a bunch of example worlds that are high fantasy styled to play with, that using the world creation stuff that it mentions in the core book. So it goes through like this section's quite chunky. It goes through like the idea of using allegorical locations, you know, the idea that like this place embodies a certain emotion and shit like that, and the mood of it. And then it talks about the crescendo of which is actually, wait, hold on, which that means when you, oh yeah, it's just talking about like the narrative crescendo of stuff and how to deal with that elemental attunement in certain locations of the world. So like, for example, a city of tower of mages and healers could be tuned to air and light, you know, blah blah blah, that whole thing, which is very high magic energy. Where does the source of magic come from? Connecting factions and threats and sample locations and blah. It's a lot of shit. So just like to go through the first example in here, there's Oneria. It's just called the Starting Kingdom, which is kind of funny. So like it says at a glance, right? And it says keywords: adventure, home, longing, nest. Okay, so it's got that kind of homely, like house on the prairie vibe, I guess you could say. Themes: the journey start, the call to adventure, the end of childhood, right? It's the like, oh, I have to leave my farm. It's the Star Wars vibe. I have to leave the farm and be the hero. Terrain, the fields, hills, and marble. There's this little mechanical bit, travel rolls, where it mentions a D6 and a D8, which just relates back to the travel rolls in the core rulebook. Basically, they made a little character sheet for the location. Common elements, earth, ice, light. Rare elements, I think that's darkness and fire. The danger, a dangerous magical beast passes the barrier. People with no apparent connection to one another disappear throughout the realm. Discoveries, a messenger bears odd news from the outer world, the entrance to an ancient ruin by the river. It's giving you a couple, it's like example, and then it lists out questions for the group. Which you were born here? What district? For those who have not been raised in Oneria, adapting to the kingdom's everyday life isn't easy. Why is it so? So some like good opening questions. This is all good stuff. I'm not gonna go through it piece by piece. Be here forever.
It's very basic, yeah. Like,
well, it's
not even basic. It's just
it's opening, very opening campaigny stuff that if you've played a bunch of games, you're probably kind of doing anyway.
That's kind of, sorry. Let me rephrase. That's kind of what I meant. It's there's not a whole lot of mechanical stuff to this. It's mainly just some fluff and thought-provoking things.
It's thought-provoking, and it's a guide. It's like a guide on how to do this kind of thing if you're not good at it or you haven't GM'd a whole lot. And then it says the typical starting kingdom should include one of these features: an enigmatic leader, an ancient order of knights, a secret access to a place long forgotten, a viewpoint from which one can admire one of its marvels, some locations. So it mentions like typical features, and then it's like some locations to visit for the cool places for the protagonist to go. What's the villain up to? And then it gives you a list of a bunch of story hooks. This is quite I'm going through it very fast for the sake of time, but it's actually quite a meaty chunk of it. Like, there's a lot of shit here that you could definitely start a campaign off of any one of these. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 starting worlds that they built in this book. So it's quite meaty.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a lot here. It talks about some story hooks. It's like one's called the Founders Plaza. Then we got the Nefti Ruins, the Scam of the Century. And then it goes on to the next one, which is the Dark Forest Artemis. Point being, it's big, meaty. You take these 10, you could basically play a whole campaign with these 10 locations, is the idea.
Pretty easily, yeah.
And it would not be hard, and you just, it gives you a lot of broad shit to slap on there, and then you can fill out the little tidbits in between. Boom, bang, boom. Again, it's not a bad section. It's just for the sake of time, and also because this is probably not something I would necessarily use myself. I'm going through it relatively quickly. And then they go into like dealing with conflicts, basically how to, and remember, when this game refers to conflicts, it's a mechanical thing, which is to say a action sequence of some kind between the characters, a conflict between the characters and NPCs. It's like a mechanical idea. So the opening paragraph, it says, the next page provides suggestions to help you build high fantasy conflicts, and conflicts is in bold again because that's a game mechanic. Explore these situations from a rules perspective. They explore these situations from a rules perspective, which the core rulebook also discusses at length from page 58. But more importantly, they focus on the narrative tension at play during clashes between individuals or factions. Again, this is a whole bunch of information they're slapping in here. Talks about like clashing of ideals, having characters like, themes and goals and shit, butt up against each other, how to handle war and battles and factions, and dealing with, battles with many foes and colossal beings and shit like that. Dealing with like how should monarchies and hierarchies and shit be handled. And then it talks about magic and rituals and how you should handle that in the world.
I actually, I wanted to shout that ritual thing out.
Which bit?
I really like that they give you some context for rituals. They give you some, because they do it in the other one, but they go into the difference between like standard rituals, ones that might not be super high state, because they treat the ones in the first book like rituals are super powerful and they can go horribly wrong.
Right.
I like that in this, they take the time to go, the rituals can be simple, like building a building or having a goal or like powering an arcane rail or stuff like that.
Fair
I like
point.
that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it talks about like, it brings up a lot of how to treat the magic in the world. It talks about dealing with the arcanas, which are the like summon creatures, theming your group. This one's funny.
Did you like
what?
That the way that they how they talk about the arcanas and what they are?
Which bit?
So they say an arcanum in its complete and true form is essentially a demon. See gods and demons. Demons are born from worship of a mythical entity. Highly celebrated heroes of the past. So they're like the Greek version of like daemons. And they bring up later in the book that they specifically shout out the Greek daemons. And I was like, let's fucking go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's good because it's a lot of extra context. Again, this source book feels like kind of just an extension of the core book. So a lot of this information feels like a natural extension of the information that was in the core rulebook. That being a good example. It brings up how to do themed groups. I thought that one was kind of funny, where it's like the 7 heavenly blades, the 5 elemental crystals, and so on. This concept works well when applied to Arcana. For example, the game world might be protected by 6 ancient pillars, or influenced by 12 Arcana of the Zodiac. I was like, oh yeah, it's a fun little idea. It also, I will say this, a fun little mechanical bit in this section is it goes into how you could make your own Arcana. Because there's like 10 or 12 in the core book, I think.
Yeah, there's not many.
So it goes into like, if you want to make your own, like, here's how you can go about it. And then after that, talks about how to handle gods and demons and high fantasy supreme villains, which, as we talked about, let your players kill God. it's sort of readdressed here. In the stream of souls, and a lot of this is sort of like they're kind of making a lot of what's in this particular book is like kind of making a setting without straight up saying it's a setting. Like they're like hinting at a setting quite a bit. What I mean?
They're basically saying we didn't give you we didn't give you a setting, but if you wanted to make it, we do have pieces.
Yeah, it's like we didn't give you a setting, but if you want to know what our opinions on the setting would be, it would be this stuff.
Yeah.
And the common and special rituals bits, you're talking about life beyond death and like undead and resurrecting characters. And then it goes into technology after that and how you should handle your technology. What does it mean, the technology in your world? All that gobbly. And then it brings up some rare items. And it does have a list of more rare items. Which is, basically more magic items. Cool. But it also talks about how you should kind of treat rare items, which it didn't talk about so much in the core rulebook. Mostly, I assume, just because page count, to be honest.
Yeah. As a small thing, did you notice that the major arcana for the Arcanum thing is basically just the fucking Persona cards?
I did see that, yes. Yeah, it talks about, lavish battle-ready weapons, splendid and refined armor, mighty and varied shields, accessories for all right? It's talking about, like, rare items should be flashy and have some pizzazz to them. Mentions, like, using mythological references and shit. The idea of protagonists having their iconic weapon, and how you can kind of, deal with that. Which is to say, let them upgrade their existing weapon. It talks about this one I think is funny, where the header is "That's a weapon?" ? And it's just debated. It says heroes might find using paintbrushes, forks, or musical instruments, or perhaps their twin shields as weapons. I just thought of Waka and his blitzball.
Yep, Waka and his fucking blitzball.
That's what came to my mind.
That came to my mind, and then Kanji from Persona with the fucking chair.
The chair, yeah, that's a good one too. And then it talks about,
I only think of Brett playing Kanji in P4A being like, "You saying I like dudes?" and then command grabbing you.
Good times.
Oh, Brett.
Good times, people. Yeah, and then you have, and then it just talks a little bit. It's like, you know, sometimes you could just reflavor shit. You don't necessarily have to make a whole new weapon. Just, you know, a thing D&D also mentions. And then it gives a big list of some new rare weapons and stuff, such as a firearm called Ultimatum. Just
Ultimatum, yeah,
pretty funny.
buddy.
Thought that was a good one. Side note, I forget. So remember how we were talking about the rare items specifically augmenting like existing skills?
Yep.
Yeah, they literally do that. So if you look at the Grim Waltz, after you reduce a creature's hit points to 0 with this weapon, you immediately may perform a dance with a duration of instantaneous among those you have learned. The MP cost of a dance performed this way can never be lower than 10. A dance is a specific mechanic that only the dancer gets. Dancer being one of the new classes in this book.
Yeah.
So they do, in fact, do the thing.
Yeah, I thought that was
about.
interesting. Yeah.
You know, the whole...
so that's what I was talking about too, right? Where it's like, I kind of like the idea that, you know, you can have someone who's not a dancer and then get a dance. And it won't be like as cool as the dancers' dances. They don't like have the same amount of strength.
Well, that's not
little, like,
that's
little
not
toe
what
dip.
That's not what this ability's doing. It's only if you already have.
Oh, is it not? Damn.
It says you may immediately perform a
I see.
dance. You may immediately perform a dance amongst those you have learned. What if I told you I accidentally hit the pause button? For like 2 seconds. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not 100% sure. We were talking about the bag shield and the shield of blades. Don't worry. Nothing was super lost there. I think we're good. But no. We're good. No, we're good. Resume. I don't know how this is going to sound in the final. Good luck, Brett.
It's so going to be so scuffed. I'm so sorry.
If who's ever listening just heard all that rambling, hello. If you didn't, nothing happened. Nothing at all.
Yeah, you heard nothing.
You heard nothing at all. I don't know what it's going to sound like. Anyway, moving on. And then there's some more rare accessory examples. And then it brings up artifacts again, which are the like super narratively important magical items that are not just, you know, a +1 sword or whatever. And it just gives you some extra tidbits about artifacts. It does specifically mention talking artifacts, which I think is kind of funny. Also, the first artifact listed, the Armor of Supremacy, has a dragon trapped inside of it. It's just, you know, really is not a fan.
No.
And I think one of the is it the Behemoth Heart whispers? One of them was like whispering sweet nothings to you.
Oh, that was the No, it's not the Behemoth's Heart. It's the Is it the Emerillion?
I don't know. I don't remember. Also, the Orc Alchem chest is quite funny.
Oh, yeah.
It's a chest set, and you could, like, summon the pieces as, like, a knight. You know, like, you could summon them as, like, assistants. That was pretty funny.
A lot of these are really fun. Like
they are, yeah. The artifacts are a good time.
I really liked the oh god, which one was it? Oh no.
Oh, which one was it?
I can't remember now. Shit. I remember I chuckled when I read it though.
This is unfortunate.
Now I feel dumb. I'm not gonna read them all right now. But
Okay.
just go on. Just hide my shame. Go.
Hiding your shame. Then we get to the more crunchy mechanical bit, which is all the new stuff added for the protagonist. So we added custom weapons, quirks, 0 powers, 4 new classes, and 24 new heroic skills. So this is the sort of meaty mechanical bit of this particular. I mean, I guess the rare items are also fairly mechanical, but you know. It gives you some advice on how to create a more high fantasy themed character, and then gives a bunch of example characters, which, you know, Cool, fine. Again, I'm not going to read through them all. But they're fun little, like, get the idea juices flowing. Again, the main thing that, for me personally, I'm not necessarily going to use any of these, and I'm not even really going to take anything from them. But something that is useful is that looking at character examples like these lets you know what the game designer, like, this is the game designer saying to you, this is how I think characters in this game should be. Like, this is what I think they should be like, you know what I mean? And that gives you a good frame of reference for just, I don't want to say playing correctly, but playing within the author's vision, you know?
Yes, and well, you're right. That's not necessarily playing correctly. It is likely to yield you more enjoyable results. This is the thing. This was the story that Sam told way back, right? Where a bunch of players didn't build their characters correctly, so they just couldn't play the game.
Yeah,
like the one like wanted to be Batman but didn't put any points into actually like punching, so it couldn't knock anything out.
I mean, that particular example is a little more mechanical. In this case, it's more like the author is telling you what style of character they expect you to play, and ergo, if you play within those styles, the game is going to mesh with your character better. You know?
Yeah.
It's more of a narrative style, less of a mechanical thing, but yes, that is kind of the idea. It's like, if you play this kind of a character, you should have a good time because this is how I as the author think of the game. Un momento. Sorry. There's some phlegmy in the throat. Anyway.
I see.
It's fine, I'm choking. Don't worry about it.
I figure you're good. I think if you're dying, you let me know.
Yeah. So it talks about the example characters, and then it gives us those little advice boxes on the 4 new classes. So it mentions the Chanter, the 4 classes are Chanter, Commander, Dancer, and Symbolist. The Chanter is a singer, like a bard, basically. The Commander is pretty much what they sound like. The Dancer is pretty much what they sound like, a support class through dancing, and the Symbolist is kind of a Final Fantasy Pictomancer, which is funny because Pictomancer came out very recently. So they're a little ahead of the game on that one.
Yeah, I think of it, so your 5e equivalent, I guess, would be like Rune Scribe.
Yeah, I guess that, yeah, pretty much. First new mechanic is custom weapons. And this is basically, I looked over the base weapons, but I wanted to do something a little weirder, a little fancier, but I didn't necessarily want my player to start with a rare item, which is to say I don't want them to necessarily start with a magic item. Custom weapons. It's what it sounds like. They are weapons that you custom design to, fit your character. The game says, and also they give you some rules on how to turn it into a rare version of itself. So it's like, because, it'd be really like, again, staying within genre, within trope. Squall has the Gunblade. It would feel kind of shitty if, halfway through the game, he just picked up a normal ass sword, right? Like, Squall always has to have a Gunblade through the whole game. It's his thing. So if your character has a custom weapon, you probably want it to be your character's thing. So instead of replacing it, the game's like, upgrade your custom weapon to a rare version, which is to basically say, take your normal weapon and make it a magic weapon. Because that's just makes sense. The game does say that custom weapons aren't necessarily better than normal basic weapons. I'm not 100% sure if that's true or not. I don't know.
It's
maybe?
No, yeah. I like
maybe.
So it's like they're not necessarily, but it seems to me that more often than not they are.
Well, so like the hold on. Let me open up the other book real quick. I just real quick. Please hold while I scroll vigorous scrolling. So like, okay. So a bronze sword, right? It's like, okay, dex plus might plus 1. Its damage is highest roll plus 6. So if you're rolling, 2d8 and you roll an 8 on one of your dice, your damage would be 8 plus 6, and it's your dex stat plus your might stat plus 1. Okay. So for custom weapons, so you choose a category: arcane, bow, brawling, dagger, firearm, flail, heavy, spear, sword, or thrown. It's not martial by default, but you add customization, so it might become martial. It is a two-handed weapon and cannot benefit from the monkey grip heroic skill. In short, a custom weapon will always occupy both hand slots. I think this is intended to be the primary balancing mechanic here.
Yeah.
Is that because it always occupies 2 hand slots. So, like a greatsword, for example, would be two-handed. But a greatsword does highest roll plus 10, whereas a custom weapon does highest roll plus 5 damage. So it's occupying 2 hands, but it's doing less damage. You can decide if it's melee or ranged. It costs 300 zenny, which is, I think, a little bit more than some of the baseline weapons, but okay, so like a couple of baseline weapons are 250, so it is a little bit, but not much more. The accuracy check is either dex plus insight or dex plus might, your choice, but only those two, so you lose out on some of the like stat roll options, because like a staff, for example, is willpower plus willpower, and a tome is insight plus insight, right? So, and then like hammer, broadaxe, and war axe are might plus might, so you miss out on some stat options. And
yeah,
then
I take a slight amount of umbrage with that.
Well, again, I think the idea is to make them so that there's still a reason you might want to take the regular weapons, right? To make it so that you're not just always going to go with custom.
I get it. It just seems to, like, if you're a martial class and you use a custom item, you're most likely fine. But it does affect casters a little inordinately because they kind of rely on that double skill.
Sort of, kind of.
And yes, the answer is like, just use a standard item, but that's like,
it dissuades
you as a caster from taking it.
Well, it doesn't, depending. So like you get 3 customizations, right? And this is where the previous things I just listed are set in stone. And then you get 3 customizations from the list. So each customization can be taken once. Some of the customizations will turn it into a martial weapon. And then some of the powerful customizations count as essentially 2 items. So there's actually not a ton of customization. So one of them is accurate, which is it adds a +2 bonus to the weapon's accuracy check, which is to say to hit. One of them is defense boost. So it gives you a +2 bonus to your defense as if you have a shield. And it's treated like a shield for the sake of some abilities like defense mastery or dodge. You can add elemental, which is it does one of the elemental, air, bolt, dark, etc., blah blah blah, and it deals the chosen type. It deals the elemental type instead of physical, and also deals 2 extra damage. You can take magic defense boost with +2 to your magic defense. You can make it powerful, which deals 5 extra damage or 7 extra damage if it's a heavy weapon. This customization is not available for arcane and dagger weapons, or for weapons with the quick customization. And then, so the quick customization, which is the only one that actually counts for 2. When you perform an attack, you could and choose to attack with this weapon, you may perform 2 attacks. If you do, both attacks follow the rules for 2-weapon fighting. And then the last customization is transforming, which for anyone who's played Bloodborne, it's a Bloodborne trick weapon.
It's a trick weapon, baby.
Yeah, you attack and then transform it, and then you attack and you transform it again. Basically, on once per turn, either before or after you take an action, you can transform your weapon. And it can go from range to melee to ranged and vice versa, yada yada. So, yes, it does de-incentivize the casters a little bit because they can't take like a double insight weapon, but you could do dex plus insight, so there's that. And you could potentially take the accuracy bonus and the magic boost bonus and sort of make up for it, you know? So like, I think the idea is generally supposed to be yes, so you don't just because otherwise, if customization, the problem is, if the custom weapons are better, everyone's just gonna have custom weapons, and then like, why do you have regular equipment, you know?
I mean, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. Like,
I think the designer sees it as a bad thing because he took the time to design all the basic weapons and get the art made and shit. He wants people to use them.
He did. I get it. I don't know. I don't entirely agree with his sentiment there. I think
the custom weapons are also optional, of course.
They are, yes. I just think it does actually, I feel, relieve a lot of the tension on the GM when it comes to things like shopping. So it's like, well, they already have the items they're going to need for the rest of the game. Like, it's not.
I mean, I think this game's not going to have that problem anyway, very much. Because weapons. So? Yeah, because the base, it's not like the basic weapons scale up on any kind of linear progression. Right? Like, you pick your basic weapon at the beginning, that's it. The only upgrade you're going to get is a rare magic item. Or is a rare item. So, whether they start with a custom item or they start with a non-custom item, they're still going to basically have the weapon they want, and there's no reason for them to go out of their way on a shopping spree to specifically get, like, well, I have my current sword is +1, but I want a +3 sword. Like, that doesn't exist. You know what I mean?
I suppose that's true. I just sort of thought of it as, because, the rare items are supposed to be rare, but as you get higher in level, they're probably going to be a little more common. You might find them a little more often, especially the way the game expects you to find treasure.
But that's already...
I just figured.
That's already true of... That's true of custom weapons just as much as normal weapons, though.
Yeah, I guess. I saw it as you won't have to worry as much because you're going to have the items probably for the majority of the game and then swap them whenever you get like your Holy Avenger or whatever.
Right, but what I'm saying is that's going to be true of both. It doesn't matter if you're using a custom weapon or a basic weapon. That's going to be true either way. There's nothing intrinsically better about the custom weapon than a basic weapon. Mechanically, they appear to be, mostly balanced. So you're not swapping out, you're not buying equipment all the time in this game, no matter what. Like, that's just not, there's just no reason to. There's nothing to buy, really.
I guess that's true.
The only thing that you might go shopping for is like maybe accessories, but that's assuming, but if they're accessible, but I believe the game has some commentary on like how accessible they should be already. So. So it gives the breakdown. That's how you make the custom weapons. It talks a little bit about custom weapons. Basically saying I tried to keep the custom weapons as balanced as possible, so they might seem better. They might seem like a better option right from the jump, but if you look at it, there is a couple of pros and cons to taking a custom weapon versus a basic weapon. So what I was saying. And then it just tells you how to handle transforming weapons a little bit. And then it gives a bunch of sample custom weapons. So dancing knives, which is like a fucking transforming whip that turns into like it's a dagger that turns into a whip.
Did you read that one and also say kunai with chain in your head?
No, but now that you've said that, now I'm thinking of that, yes. Wasn't actually before, but now I am. It mentions
God, I love info hazards.
The Grimoire of Force turning into the Grimoire of Wind. It gives a rare upgrade of all of the example custom weapons. Hoplite's Axe turning into Dragon Spine. It's a great name.
I like that one's basically the fucking the Switch Axe from Monster Hunter.
Charge Axe, I think, but yes.
Charge Axe, there we go. Yeah. Because it's the turns into the
Yeah. So they give a bunch of custom weapon examples. And then we get into the quirks. So basically the way I would describe quirks is that they are kind of like D&D feats, but their effect in terms of like narrative effect varies quite widely. Everyone only gets one quirk, and you don't get more. You start with one, and that's it. And the game very specifically says no two players can have the same quirk. Which, what the fuck was I just trying to say? Wow, I don't know why that sentence. What? Rethink, brain, reanalyze, lock in.
XP Smoothie really hitting the both of us today.
Regroup, defrag. Okay. I agree with
defrag.
I agree with the sentiment of no two characters should have the same quirk, because for most of them, there's a couple of them that it would feel, weird for multiple people to have the quirk. There's a couple of them where it would straight up make no sense if more than one person had the quirk.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. Also, I thought it was interesting because this is another example of what you were saying last time of the game putting its foot down and saying like no two characters can have the same quirk. It's very, declarative. You technically can't lose or gain the quirk, but if it makes narrative sense, obviously you can. And on average, player characters with quirks will be a little bit stronger than regular characters, so keep that in mind. It talks about how some of the quirks are more impactful than others, and don't necessarily feel tied down just to use the quirk. And then it says how to use quirks. These options should be used to bring interesting situations into play, to give your character unique issues and problems to confront, and to provide additional mechanical support for their traits. How not to use them. These options should not be used to make your character stronger than the rest of the group, steal the spotlight, or bring sensitive topics that make everyone else uncomfortable into play. They're like, don't pick a quirk just to be a Mary Sue dickhead. Basically.
Yeah. Do not try to live your harem protagonist dreams.
Yeah, God, no. And then it lists them out. So some of them are just like kind of funny. Like Arboreal is just, you're a humanoid plant man. You're just a plant person of some kind.
Just a tree man.
Yeah, you're a tree man, and you're immune to a status effect, and you're vulnerable to a certain kind of damage. You also learn an NPC spell. So one thing I do like about the quirks, I will say, is that a couple of them are a good way to play, like, because the game doesn't have species, right? So you're like, if you're like, what if I want to play like a weird tree dude? Like, well, the quirk actually perfectly covers that, right? What if I want to play a warforged? Well, there's a quirk for being a robot. So I like that they do that. I like that they cover, that they can kind of cover some of that funky species need. And if there isn't a quirk in there that does what you want, you could just whip up your own. Shouldn't be too hard,
Yeah.
So I like both of those. Then there's the cursed quirk, which is like, you're cursed. You have a threat that's tied to you. You can take a fumble on purpose to gain 2 Fabula points, which I love. I think that's a fun one.
Any ability that incentivizes
Fabula
declaring failure, I love.
Yeah, that's a fun one. It's not just failure; it's straight up a fumble. Just kind of funny.
Yeah.
Then you have the elemental soul one, which is sort of like you're a elemental sorcerer. You pick an element, you stick to it. You have resistance, and you get the ritualism element. You have the empty hands quirk, which is just if you want to live out your best monk dreams, and you just want to punch the living fuck out of people. Fettered heart, which is fuck. What even is this one? I forget.
Fettered heart. You are like kind of soul bound to another NPC.
Oh yeah, you're like infatuated with someone, and yeah. So this is one of the ones where it's like, this one's actually quite chunky in what it does. It affects quite a lot of things. And there's stages to it. Now, Fettered Heart is like, you're tied to an NPC. It's like, okay, we're going to get to some crazier ones though. Then you have Flight, which is like cool. If I want to play a Birdman, I can fly. Cool. Yep. Okay. You have From a Distant World, which is
want to be an isekai protag.
You want to be an isekai protag, or you just want to be like a tiefling, right?
I like isekai protag more.
I mean, sure. And you can invoke a trait to re-roll a die if you're From a Distant World, which I don't mechanically, this one feels a little disjointed from the narrative of it, but like, whatever. Then you have Glorious Fate. I'm not reading all of this because this one's long as shit. Not that I've been reading.
You want me to do it?
I mean, do you want to read the whole thing?
It's kind of wild, so yeah.
To make the point? All right, go ahead.
Glorious Fate.
Keep in mind, this is something you pick at character creation as the quirk for your character, right?
Yes.
Just
Glorious Fate. There is a prophecy surrounding you, a prophecy of hope for a better world. Who spoke or wrote that prophecy? Do you embrace your destiny, or are you crushed by its weight? Did someone plant seeds of doubt in your heart? When you acquire this quirk, write down the prophecy and what it foretold. Do this with the collaboration of everyone else in the group. Tie it down to a known threat or emergency in your world, and describe what sign or omen marks you as the person supposedly destined to fulfill that prophecy. Examples: the boy with the ruby necklace will bring water back to the desolate plains, or the branded one shall destroy the chaos dragon. That was very 16, I felt. But anyway, at the end of each session, approximately 4 hours of play, before assigning XP, think carefully and honestly about what happened during the session and choose one of the 5 options below. The choice is yours to make, but it's often a good idea to talk about what happened with the rest of the group. Number 1, the prophecy was fulfilled. Lose this quirk, fully restore your hit points and mind points, recover from all status effects, and gain the heroic skill from those available for your classes. You may even choose a heroic skill whose requirements you do not satisfy unless they include a skill you don't have. Option 2, you acted in accordance to the prophecy. Fully restore your hit points and mind points, recover from all status effects. Option 3, you acted neither in accordance nor against the prophecy. Nothing happens. Option 4, you acted against the prophecy. Gain 1 Fabula point. Option 5, the prophecy can never be fulfilled. Lose this quirk, gain 6 Fabula points, and gain a heroic skill from those available for your classes. You may even choose a skill from a heroic skill whose resources you do not meet unless they include a skill you do not have. Once the first or last option is chosen, the role of the prophecy in your world comes to an end. Even if later on in the campaign it appears that a situation might match the words of the prophecy, the effects of this quirk will no longer be in place. You are free to shape your destiny and act based on your inner moral compass, or perhaps you always were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, essentially, if you're going to pick this, it's like you're dragging your entire group into this situation. Which is that's really the crazy part, right? Because the prophecy has to be fulfilled or failed in some way, right? Which means everyone has to establish it and everyone has to deal with it. But I think the craziest part about this one is that you kind of have to look at the GM and like hand them a notepad and say, I would like special treatment, please. Right? Like, because the GM has to make the, like, essentially, the GM has to make the prophecy fit and everything else, right? So it's kind of a lot, I feel like, if you're not ready for something. And given the game does warn you, like, discuss it with the entire group, but it is kind of a wild thing that it's like everyone's being dragged into this situation if you pick this.
Yeah, everyone's being dragged in and you're just along for the ride.
Yeah. That being said, I like it a lot. It is very cool that you have a mechanical thing, or you have a fictional thing that you take that is backed up mechanically where, if you move towards the prophecy, stuff happens. If you move away from it, stuff happens. Like there's a countdown clock. Or no, does this one have a countdown clock? No, this one doesn't have. The other one has a countdown clock.
This one doesn't, no. I think Ruinbringer does.
Yeah. But it's associated. Like it has mechanical effects. It has stuff going on. So it's very cool, but it could also be a lot. I would not blame a newer GM, like to role playing in general, being like, please don't pick this. I would not blame you, bro.
No, I wouldn't either. I'd be like, you know what? That's fair.
That's fair. So then after that one, you have Heirloom, which is basically just you start with a magic item. Cool. There's like a story tied to said magic item. And then you have Old Transport, which is you have Sid's airship, right?
Yeah, you're the Highwind.
You start with a transport of some kind, and it's big enough to accommodate you and your homies. You have a Highwind, you have the boat, you have a sick car.
You have your fucking multi-million-dollar stretch Cadillac, the Regalia.
Yeah, you have the Regalia. Yeah, exactly. Also, another example of the game being very firm with both the Heirloom and the Old Transport. This cannot be destroyed without your permission.
Yes.
Which is bold claim, game. But
crazy, yeah.
But for, again, as I say, I think I've said this a bunch of times with this game, for the style of game, makes a lot of sense. Right? You made the joke, but the Regalia being destroyed in Final Fantasy 15 wasn't just like a side thing that happened on, off screen or randomly or whatever. It was a big emotional moment when the car got destroyed, right? Like it was the game literally treats it like a person died.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely got a little sad when the car was destroyed. Like
everyone got sad when the car was destroyed. Literally anyone who played 15 was like, damn, bro, when the Regalia got destroyed, I felt something. Literally everybody.
Yeah,
right?
I can't believe you've done this.
Yeah. So that's really what the game is saying is as the GM, don't just blow up the Highwind for no reason. The Highwind explodes because the player character, rams it into the enemy battleship and takes that shit out, but saves the day, right? That's how the Highwind should go out. That's kind of the point. Then you have the Revenant quirk, which is pretty much what you expect. You can play an undead character. You're immune to dark damage and poison damage. You're vulnerable to light damage. You don't need to eat and breathe. The usual stuff. You still have to rest. And then you have Rival Prodigies, which is just Sid and Nero from 14.
Yeah, Sid and Nero, Squall and Cypher. Cecil and Kane.
Yeah.
Who is your boyfriend, but also your rival enemy?
Who is your boyfriend and rival at the same time? And you when you take the quirk, you choose what you specialize in. You say who your rival is. You declare the rival. The rival becomes a minor villain. You have a bond with said rival. When the rival is present and has one or more Ultima points, any check you fail is treated as if you rolled a fumble. I forget the
brutal as fuck.
Yes, but the positive, the positive is you get like a specialization, right, or whatever.
Yes.
When the rule or ability pertaining to your specialization requires you to spend hit point or mind points, you may spend a Fabula point instead to ignore that cost. Yeah. You're particularly good at a certain thing, but you got a homie who's out to get your ass. It also mentions that your rival could escalate, which is kind of funny. It could go from being a minor villain to fuck it, I'm God now. Oh shit. And then there's the robot quirk, which is you're a warforged, you get a bonus to interact with machines and constructs and shit. You're immune to poison damage, resistant to earth damage, don't need to eat or drink, the usual stuff. And then we have Ruinbringer. And then after Ruinbringer, we have Souls Entwined. Both of these are bananas.
Fucking nuts.
I'm not going to read Ruinbringer all the way word for word, but so basically Ruinbringer, kind of like the prophecy one, is you you're here to bring ruin. You're here to destroy the world. For some reason, so the examples it gives is the demon queen, the great comet, the god of bloodshed. Until the ruin comes true, you cannot sacrifice yourself, so you can't die. Which is funny. And then it says, in parentheses, in fact, the servants of the ruin might lend you a hand and free you from any imprisonment that would prevent you from fulfilling a role in their plans. So, like, if you're about to die, all the demons rip out of the hell portal to save your life just to make sure that, they can come back later so you could do your job.
Yeah.
And essentially, there's a countdown clock, and you roll 2d20 at the end of a session to see if the countdown advances. Once the countdown advances for the 9th time, you lose the quirk and your ruin comes true, manifesting into the world as a supreme villain. However, you immediately gain a heroic skill from those available to your classes. You may even choose a heroic skill whose requirements you do not satisfy. Steel yourself and face your destiny. So it's like, you roll eventually. Oh, and then also it says if you're level 40 and above, the ruin clock automatically advances after every session. So basically, once you hit level 40, gear up, buddy. It's coming.
Yeah. Once you hit level 40, congratulations, Nahubino. You will bring the end of days.
Yeah. Prepare your butthole for that one. So again, much like the prophecy one, you're bringing everyone along for the fucking ride on this one. Like, yeah, so my quirk is I'm gonna summon the ultimate demon queen who's here to eat everyone's souls and kill the universe. So get ready, everybody. Like,
see, so I would
crazy.
really like it if a player took the prophecy one and someone took the ruin bringer one, and the prophecy was who wins at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. I could see that.
One final duel at the end. And like, I know the game's like no PvP, but like, I feel like that one is too good to.
Well, you don't even
make it PvP. Just make it like just a clock.
Well, it could also just be the ruin bringer and the prophecy person. Like, the prophecy is, I'm going to bring down the demon queen. The ruin bringer, I'm going to summon the demon queen. She shows up. The two of you have your like Wonder Twin powers activate, and you kill the demon queen. Like, it could be that way too.
That would be cool. That'd be cool too. Yeah.
And then the next one is Souls Entwined, which, if anyone played Beyond Two Souls, it's just that. Just a weird thing to reference, I'm sure, but did you play or watch that game?
I did not.
Oh, okay. So the entire premise is that spoilers for Beyond Two Souls, the fucking David Cage game. Don't worry about it.
Wait, this is the one with Elliot Page, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The main character has like a spirit friend that protects her, and it's her dead brother's soul, like trapped in her body.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so this one is funny because you have to agree with another player. Like, you can't just take this one. You have to have somebody to do it with, because one of the other player characters is your host body. You both immediately create a bond towards each other. This bond has one emotion: admiration, affection, and choose from admiration, affection, or loyalty. Make sure whoever controls the host character is okay with this and looks forward to exploring this, because, again, souls entwined. I mean, it's in the name. You and your host can communicate telepathically. You can teleport back to your host whenever the fuck you want. You could just disappear into their body and hide if you want to. And you can't die. And if your host is about to die, you can sacrifice yourself to protect them. So this one also cuckoo bananas.
Yeah, fucking nuts.
And again, like, you gotta get agreement on this one, because Jesus Jiminy Ham.
This is literally...
But very fun.
This is the Michael Keaton, you want nuts? It's gonna get nuts. Like, yeah that's this.
Yes. But very cool. I like this quirk a lot. The Souls Entwined I like a lot. I mean, you asked how I felt about the quirks.
It's sick as fuck.
I like the quirks. My only complaint is I wish they were split into like separated a little bit. So like Rival Prodigies, Ruinbringer, Souls Entwined, Glorious Fate kind of feel they have a heavier narrative weight than the other ones, but they're lumped in with the other, like Flight, right? Your character could just literally just have wings and that's it, right? That's not going to have necessarily huge narrative implications. It could matter, right? You could make it into a narrative thing, but it doesn't have to be. You could just be a bird guy. So I kind of wish they were just sectioned off into the ones that have like less narrative implications, and these ones are a little more advanced and will have a greater effect on the narrative type situation. You know what I mean?
Yes, I mean, that's very fair. I completely understand that.
That's my only real complaint, because I could see someone like being a newer player and picking one of them and maybe not reading carefully or just not thinking about it and picking like Ruinbringer or whatever, and then realizing that like, oh, this is kind of a lot. I don't actually want to deal with this. And then you have to think about how to get rid of it or change it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the GM could agree to letting you take Ruinbringer and then realize, oh, I don't actually want to deal with this fucking quirk. And then you have to figure out some way to like retcon it out or whatever, you know. A little warning on the heftier ones is really all I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the quirks, and then we have the zero powers.
What do you think about these?
These are very funny. Like,
would you allow these in a game?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, bud. I feel the exact same way, where it's like,
they're a lot.
They are a lot.
So
they are so much.
For anyone who's familiar with Final Fantasy, zero powers are pretty much limit breaks. But unlike, they're like limit breaks, but they're not like Final Fantasy 14 limit breaks. They're like, you know, Final Fantasy 10 or 7, where everyone has a limit break. And, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's a tough one to call. It's a tough call because you're giving everyone a super powerful, like, super specially awesome move. And they're going to happen pretty often.
And they will finish a fight. They, like...
Some of them, yeah. So the game does warn you. It literally says, this rule will make protagonists of your story downright excessive. And it has the word excessive in bold, which I thought was very funny. As with any optional rule, make sure to discuss its use with the entire group. On average, groups using zero powers are expected to defeat most foes without too much trouble, aside from those requiring specific strategies or intricate tactics. So it's like, your players are just going to clown on everything, basically. So, yeah. The way they work is they have... so again, the same group must never have two PCs who have the same zero trigger or two PCs who have the same zero effect. So they're broken up into a trigger and effect, which is essentially how does it power up, how does it charge, and what does it do is the effect. So you have a zero clock. Your clock has 6 sections. Everyone gets these default triggers. Fill one section every time you spend a Fabula point to invoke a trait or a bond. And you're like, okay, that'll happen, but not like all the time. Fill one section each time you lose hit points, unless it was self-inflicted. That's gonna happen a lot. Obviously. No. Now it is worth being
a lot.
Now these can only be charged during a conflict scene, so you can't use them whenever willy-nilly. You have to be in a, not necessarily a fight, but you have to be in a conflict of some kind. And then it says fill a variable amount of sections based on your chosen zero trigger. So you have the 2 default ones, and then you have the other ones. Once during a conflict scene, if your zero clock is full, you may perform the skill to unleash your zero effect. You can only do it once per turn. Once per turn, mind you, not once per fight. Now, Granted, I don't think fights are going to go on long enough that you would use multiple 0 powers in a fight necessarily, other than maybe like a pretty long boss fight. But technically not, yeah, you could use multiple in a fight. Rules is written. So do with that what you will. Once you unleash the effect, you clear the clock. The clock is automatically erased at the end of a scene. So basically, once the conflict's over, if you didn't use it, you lose it. It's your tension gauge and Guilty Gear. Sections of the clock may not be filled or erased in any way except as indicated through your above, as indicated by the methods above, or through the 0 chance effect, which is a separate thing. So the triggers, there's a couple of them. One of them, so like Compassion. When you restore the hit points or mind points of an ally. Defiance. This trigger activates at the start of your turn during a conflict, provided one or more villains or champion ranked enemies are present. So if you're fighting a villain, every turn you get 1 chunk on your 0 clock for that one. There's one where that's love. You basically pick a character you love. Every time they lose hit points, you get a chunk. If the character you love sacrifices themselves and you see the sacrifice, immediately fill your 0 clock at the end of the scene. Choose a different trigger for your 0 power. So it's just like you go berserker mode. There's the revenge one, which fills 3 chunks of your 0 clock. This trigger activates when you enter crisis for the first time during a scene. And then there's sequence. When you see an ally unleash their 0 effect. Strategy. This activates at the end of your turn during conflict, provided one or more enemies present on the scene are suffering from a total of 2 or more different status effects. And then synergy. This activates when you deal damage to one or more creatures, filling 1 section for each creature that was vulnerable to the type of damage dealt. So there, you could potentially have one for dealing damage and taking damage. And then the... Oh no, there's actually more. I forgot. There's 0 blitz, 0 chance, 0 cost, 0 element. There's quite a few of them. Long story short. They all have different... The 0 chance one is kind of wild because you like roll dice and it depends on what you get. But if you get 3 matching dice, you recover a bunch of HP and MP and then fill, I think, like 3 pips or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have the effects. So just to go off a few, 0 limits at the until the end of the scene. Treat all attributes as 1 size higher, max of a D12. You may also perform an additional action during this turn. 0 magic. You immediately perform a spell action for free, casting a spell of your choice among those known. The spell's total mind cost is treated as 0. The spell deals 10 extra damage, and if it's an offensive spell, you gain a +5 bonus to the check to hit. So you get a free extra damage, better chance to hit pew pew laser spell. 0 objective, fill 3 sections of a clock tied to the current scene, or erase 3 sections of the clock if it's an enemy clock. 0 remedy, you and a number of allies you see recover from all status effects and recover an amount of hit points equal to 40 plus half your level. 0 scourge, choose a number of creatures you can see. Each of them suffers damage equal to your chosen type, 30 plus half your level, and suffers the chosen status effect. So they're pretty wacky. Woohoo.
Yeah.
And again, they're gonna come up a lot. Like not every couple of, like, so in Final Fantasy, right? You get a limit break every couple of fights usually. This is gonna be like almost every fight somebody's busting one of these out. So keep that in mind. I suppose if I were to use them, I could maybe see. I just don't like how often they're going to happen. That's really my problem.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about it, but like maybe modifying the rule so that they persist between conflicts, but they happen less often, something like that. I don't know. I'd have to play with it. I think rules is written. I'm erring on the side of no, I wouldn't want to use them. Then it gives you a chart of how to name them, such as what is it? Combine the tables, create. Feel free to. Yeah, so it's like circle breath, embrace blessing, barrier awakening. You just like slap some words there. Fang instinct, dance clock, claw breath. That one's stupid. Chain breath. That's also kind of stupid. You get the idea. You slap some words together. There's a big chart. You can smack some fucking, I don't know, stinger prayer. That sounds like a Digimon attack.
It does, yeah. Yeah, that does sound like, oh, what was
my boy Stingmon?
That one. Fucking.
I love Stingmon. One of my favorites.
The Gabimon? The like, Greymon's pre-evolved. Like the little dude.
Agumon?
What's his thing? Pepper breath? Agumon, there we go. Oh, sorry, I was thinking of Gyumon, my brain.
Oh, Gyumon, yes. Yeah, I don't remember what his thing was.
His attack was pepper breath.
Sounds right.
I don't know, I like Gyumon better. It was a darker color red.
Fair enough.
And turned into a knight.
That's true, he did turn into a cool knight. Anyway, yeah, there's a bunch of charts to like name your zero powers and shit. And then there's some variation rules. These are kind of fun, actually. The awakened powers variation is like you don't start with your zero power, you awaken to it like partway through the game.
Yeah, it's you're literally you go Super Saiyan. I love this shit so much. All right, I can break this down. Basically, the way it works is you do not start the game with your zero power, but when something heavy happens in the game, you can choose to awaken your power as if you were in an anime and Krillin just died and you unlocked Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
And it automatically procs.
Yes.
But you can only ever do this once. You still have access to your zero power
after that,
but you can only awaken it after this. Yeah. And what this allows you to do is it like, oh my God, it gives you so much shit.
It does.
I'm trying to think. Where does it say it?
But again, keeping in mind that the zero powers are kind of wacky. Woohoo.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you healed from it. I guess not.
No. Or maybe? Yeah. No, I thought, wait, yeah, because the one where you go down.
Yeah, when your character reaches zero, you can awaken their power when you...
The character, they immediately cover hit points equal to their crisis score and gain access to their zero power.
Yeah.
You get half your health back. And then there's combined zero powers. Kind of what it sounds like. You and another player sort of buddy system up your shit. Your clock has 4 sections instead. And then you like decide what the zero effect is together. And you can unleash it when either one of you fills the clock. Yeah. You should only use this. Oh yeah. You should only use this complex option if there are 4 or fewer players, because basically you make it so that the trigger can be players pair up and the trigger can be from either player. But once they do it, both players that are teamed up empty their clock. So it's like if you have a lot of players, it can get confusing. And then it gives you advice on if you want to combine the combined powers with the awakened powers modifier. I don't know if I would do that. That might be a little much. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a little wild.
And then we get to the new classes. I fucking love these 4 classes.
So they're good. Very cool.
Although I do think we need to mention real quick, they give example parties. And I just want to bring a lot of attention to the band party, where they all have the chanter class and then some other stuff.
Yes.
And the first listed one on the band is Goth Diva.
Yes.
So do with that what you will. Her weapon
so much.
is a squall fiddle. She's a 2 levels chanter, 1 level dancer, 2 levels sharpshooter. And then the golden hearted siren, the ironclad big sis, and the life of the party. I just really like Goth Diva.
The Goth Diva, yeah, it's pretty peak. I'm not even gonna lie.
So the classes themselves. The first one is the chanter. I want to play this so bad. This is so fucking... I love the chanter so fucking much. It's so fucking cool. This is everything I want a bard to be ever. D&D take notes.
Yeah.
No joke.
Uh-huh.
No joke. So
I mean, I like Chanter because of the classic character, the metalhead.
I mean,
give me my fucking axe guitar.
Yes. So the Chanter has an ability where you start a verse. Basically, you start singing. Now, the game describes it as singing. I'm sure, you could reflavor it. But the point is, you start a verse, you start a song of some kind. And then they have a unique mechanic where the verse is essentially like an ongoing spell effect that you can do. So you choose a tone, low, medium, or high. This is how loud you are. And it costs MP. So if it's a low tone, you can only target yourself or another creature, and it costs 10 MP. Medium is all your allies for 20 MP, or high is every enemy for 30 MP. Then you choose a key, and the keys are flame, frost, iron, radiance, shadow, stone, thunder, wind. And each of the keys has an elemental type, a status effect, an attribute, and a recovery. Then you choose your tone, and the tone is the effect that you're imparting. So, for example, if you choose an frantic tone, each target suffers the key type in damage equal to twice your current willpower die size. This tone deals 10 extra damage if you're level 20 or higher, or 20 damage if 40 or higher. So, for example, you could sing, if you want to hit all the enemies, high volume, and then you do a frantic tone, and then you do a key flame. And so they all take 10 fire damage. Well, plus your willpower die. So, they all take like 10 to 18 fire damage.
All right, dude. I'm getting so hyped just thinking about it.
So, fictionally, you bust out your microphone and wail into it heavy metal style, and everyone takes psychic damage or thunder damage or whatever because you're just going so fucking hard.
Yeah, it's so good.
But also, you can buff allies. So, for example, if you do a calm tone, each target recovers key recovery equal to 10 plus your current willpower die size. So, for example, if you're singing in a flame key, they would recover 10 hit points plus twice your current willpower. This amount increases by 10 and 20 if you're at higher levels. If this tone causes MP recovery, it has no effect on the character who's singing it. Basically, you can't infinite MP loop yourself because that would be funny. So you can attack and buff with it, and you can modify it every time you do it. So sick. I love this ability so much.
It's so fucking cool.
And then there's more. Because you have the resonance skill. After you affect one or more enemies with a verse, if you have an arcane weapon equipped, you may choose one of these options. Until the start of your next turn, your allies deal skill level extra damage to those enemies. Or until the start of your next turn, you recover mind points every time one of those enemies suffers damage. So you can on-go it with the resonance. You can also do ritualism if you take Siren Song based on hearing illusions. And then there's also, I like vibrato. If you sing in a lower medium volume, may perform a free attack with a weapon you have equipped. Just get an extra swing in there like a Valor Bard. It's fun. You also, so when you take the Magichant ability, you pick, I think it's you pick one key or whatever. You have to take it multiple times to get more of them. You first acquire the skill, you learn 3 volumes plus 1 key and 1 tone. Yeah. And then every time you pick it up, and you can pick it up 10 times, which I think means you can get all of them if you want. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. You can easily get all of them. Actually, there's less than you can take the skill of. Weird. That's odd.
It probably just boosts its effect.
Doesn't actually.
Oh, does it not?
No. You learn all 3 plus 1 key and 1 tone. Whenever you acquire the skill again, you may learn 1 key or 1 tone when you pick up the skill again. Okay, so you can't quite get all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So between all the keys and the tones, there's 15. So you can get almost all of them. That's fine. That doesn't bother me. Chanter is fucking baller. Cool as shit. Love the Chanter.
It's this one, I think. So this one is my favorite of the high fantasy ones, and the pilot one is my favorite of the mech fantasy or the tech fantasy.
I haven't looked at the techno fantasy ones.
So pilot is similar to this. It just gives you crazy modularity and
makes sense. Then we have the commander class, which is it's a warlord. If you miss the 4E warlord, it's kind of just that. You can command homies to get an extra attack. You can buff everyone's damage. You can have everyone. What was the other cool one? Was it the cavalry? Everyone perform a free. Oh, you can perform extra free attacks. Commander's the most basic, I would say, amongst these four. But caveat, because of the way the class system works in this game, I think you can do some cool stuff combining the commander with other shit. So, like, on its own, it's not as exciting, but it definitely has a lot of cool potential. And then there's the dancer. Dancer also super sick. I will say the dancer, the chanter, and the symbolist all do have that one little problem that we talked about, where there's one ability that you're clearly supposed to take first.
Yeah.
Right?
Can you imagine taking chanter without your fucking magic chant?
Yeah, not taking the magic chant. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, you're pretty obviously, I guess the idea is if you're just dipping into the class, you don't necessarily need to take that one first, but it's, it is kind of the primary skill. So dancer, every time you pick up, they have a skill, it's called dance. Every time you pick up this skill, you learn a dance. On your turn during a conflict scene, if you have no martial armor equipped, you may spend 10 mind points to perform a dance. This doesn't require an action, but it can only be done before or after an action, and only once per turn. If you've already performed a dance during your previous turn in the scene, the cost of the new dance is reduced by 5 mind points, so it's easier to switch between dances. Some dances are instant, and some resolve immediately, while others have effect that lasts until the start of your next turn. Then you have the Follow My Lead ability, which is basically any dance that lasts for a turn. You can spend mind points to give that buff to an ally. You have the Frantic Footwork one, which is if you're performing a dance, you gain a skill bonus of skill level ×2 to oppose checks. Relied on acrobatics, coordination, or speed. Quick Charge. After you perform a dance, you may perform the equipment action for free. Quick Change. Sorry, not Quick Charge. And then War Dancer, when you perform a dance, your attacks with Brawling, Dagger, Flail, and Thrown weapons deal extra damage equal to skill level until the start of your next turn. If you have an arcane weapon, offensive skills deal the extra damage. And then you have the dances. Now, you can take 10 levels in this. How many dances are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17. 17 dances. So again, you can't quite take all of them, but you can take a hefty chunk of them. So you have like Angel Dance, Banshee Dance, Bat Dance, Golem Dance. These all apply. They give you resistance, and they deal damage. You gain resistance, or all the damage dealt by your attacks becomes the element in question. So for Angel Dance, it's light. For Bat Dance, it's dark. For Golem Dance, it's bolt. Banshee Dance, you can apply slow to a creature. If they're already slow, they take shaken. The Lion Dance, you can recover from a status effect. Let's see, what's another fun one? Nightmare Dance, if a creature is shaken, they immediately suffer weak. The Yeti Dance is for ice damage. Then there's Unicorn Dance. Choose an ally you see and has a bond towards you. You and that ally recover an amount of HP equal to your dex die. You get the idea. Dancer, you switch between the dance modes. You can give buffs or inflict, status effects. One thing that is a little weird, so it says for Banshee Dance, if a creature is already slow, they suffer shaken. And it says that for a couple, so like Kraken Dance, if they're dazed, they become slow. I don't know how you're supposed to start the chain, though. You notice that? Because they all say it that way. I actually said it wrong before. The way they're worded is, if the creature is already X, they become Y.
Oh, so I think you need your chanter to start those off.
It seems
Flame
like
Key inflicts shaken. Frost inflicts weak.
for what?
Flame, Radiance, and Flame and Radiance.
Oh,
inflict
the
shaken.
chanter can imply. I see. So you could do like a chanter dancer combo, or you could just have two different players. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, the dancer can't seem to get that going 100% by themselves. I mean,
I guess the idea is that you would multi-class to get them both.
Yeah, you would take both probably. But yeah. So that's a little weird, but again, given the way the fucking classes work in this game, it makes sense. And then you have the Symbolist, who is depicted as like an old dude, very cool art of an old man like painting some sick shit on a canvas and then like coming to life around him. Again, there's a very obvious take this ability first. It's the magic symbols one. Or is it the symbolism one?
I just really quick, I have to chuckle a little bit. Because they were like, don't make all your protagonists conventionally attractive. And then they give you an old man who is
gorgeous.
Underneath that beard, a sexy by shoujo man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gorgeous old man.
Could be like a pretty grandma or a handsome old man. Like, no real telling there.
Yeah. Whatever. So the symbolist shtick is you learn symbols and then you apply the symbols and they like buff and debuff. And there's quite a bit of mechanical stuff. The symbolist is the longest because there's like some extra rules. So like creatures can only have one symbol at a time. It says the symbols have unlimited durations. If a creature dies, the symbol created is immediately destroyed. If a creature bearing the symbol dies, that symbol's gone. Villains can remove symbols. There's a bunch of like optional rules related to the symbols, but you learn 2 symbols when you pick up the symbolism ability. You may have up to skill level +1 symbols active at the same time. If you create more while you are at your limit, you must first choose one to destroy. You may perform the inventory action and spend 2 inventory points to create a symbol you have learned and choose one option. Apply that to yourself, apply that symbol to an ally, or perform a free attack with a weapon you have equipped. This attack deals no damage, but applies a copy of the symbol on the enemy hit. Each copy counts as a separate symbol, sword your limit. And then they have all their other abilities pretty much modify the symbol stuff. Magic symbols. If an ally bears your symbols, you may perform a spell action, destroy that symbol to cast a spell among those you know, as long as it has total mind points equal to or lower than skill level times 10. You gain the ability to perform rituals based on sight illusions. When a creature you can see is bearing one of your symbols suffers damage or recovers hit points or mind points, and you have that creature, you may have that creature suffer skill level extra damage or skill level extra points recovered. And then symbolic connection. You always know the exact direction in which you find any creature bearing one of your symbols, as long as the creature is within 2 travel days of your position. So it's a weird hunter's mark.
Yeah.
And then the symbols, again, they're a bunch of like, there's quite a few of these too. It's a bunch of wacky woohoo buffs and debuffs. Symbol despair. Creature bearing the symbol recovers hit points or mind points during conflicts. When a creature recovers, instead they only recover half the normal amount of hit points or 9 points. Symbol of destiny. After a creature bearing the symbol makes a check, you're able to see them. You may spend a Fabula point to force them to re-roll both dice. You may only do so once per check, and only if the result was not a critical success or fumble. Symbol of the elements. You create a symbol, choose an element, and the creature bearing the symbols deals damage to 1 or more creatures. If you can see the creature bearing the symbol, you may spend an amount of mind points equal to 1/3 of the total damage being inflicted. If you do, all the damage dealt this way changes to the type chosen when you created the symbol. So basically, you can make someone's attack elementally attuned. Long story short on that one. Symbol of enmity. This is a fun one. As long as the creature bearing the symbol is in crisis, any of the which is to say at half health or lower, any of that creature's enemies who are able to see them must include them among the targets of their attacks and offensive spells if possible. Beat up that nerd right there.
Yup. fuck his ass up.
Again, there's a bunch of them, so I won't go through all of them, but yeah. They're all various buffs and debuffs and shit. You can give them to allies, you can throw them on enemies. Again, they're super sick. Big fan. Symbol is cool, Chanter cool. I mean, they're all good. The commander is just a little bit less exciting, but they're all good. So, yeah. And then there's a shitload more heroic skills that got added.
Yes.
Most importantly for Isaiah, the Grand Summoning.
Grand Summoning, baby!
Which is
whole ass page of rules.
Yeah. So the Grand Summoning, I'm not going to go through it, but the long and short of it, the Grand Summoning is if you have the Arcanist class and you're level 30 or higher, you take your Arcanum and just summon them as a whole ass creature, and they get their whole ass stat block, and they join the initiative order, and you just summon your boy to go punch that nerd's face in, basically.
Yep.
It's very cool. There's other cool ones, like the Hoplite one's pretty fun, where you as long as you have a weapon equipped in your main hand and a shield, your attacks deal 5 extra damage. You gain a +1 to defense. I just like the vibe on that. Like, oh yeah, Hoplite. The fast ritual one I thought was kind of funny. You could just do rituals faster.
Mm-hmm.
What was another? Oh yeah, double arrow. What it sounds like, basically.
I really like a power chord. When you sing a verse with a medium or high volume, you may double the verse's cost in MP or spend 1 Fabula point. If you do, you and every ally that is able to hear you gain the following benefits until the start of your next turn. Accuracy checks can trigger a critical success when both dice show the same number, as long as it's not a fumble.
So greatly,
that's really cool.
Greatly expands your critical strike ability. There's a ton of new heroic skills. And I didn't even go through all of them, but they're fun. Did you see the triple slash one?
Triple slash.
I
don't think I did.
You just become Zoro.
Oh, do you literally just become fucking Zoro from One Piece?
As long as you have a one-handed melee weapon that belongs to dagger or sword categories equipped in each of your normal hand slots, you may treat your armor slot as if it were a second offhand slot. You may use this special slot to equip an offhand melee weapon that belongs to the dagger or sword categories. Note that the monkey grip skill does not turn two-handed weapons into one-handed weapons and thus cannot be combined with this. When you perform the attack action while you have 3 daggers and or swords, you may attack once with each weapon. This follows normal rules for 2-weapon fighting. Yeah.
Yeah, you literally become fucking Zoro.
You stick a sword in your mouth and become Zoro. Straight up.
I love that.
Yeah, thought that was very funny. I also thought it was funny that the requirements for triple slash, you must have mastered one or more classes among Dancer and Weapon Master. Dancer?
I guess the idea because you got your chakrams.
I guess so.
Or the dancers also use the kunai with chain.
That's true. They do have the kunai with chain. That's very true. And then the last chapter in this book is a couple of high fantasy villain examples that they built for you. And they also the book talks about, how you should think about the villains, some basic ideas for them, give them relatable motivations, and give them a tragic backstory, make them stylish, all that shit. Talks about the whole battling gods concept, yada yada. And then it gives a couple examples. I just would like to call out the first one, Aileen the Pirate Queen, just looking amazing.
Yeah.
God damn, I love that art. But also hot old lady, we did that again. I'm just saying.
So wait, I think we have to really go over this. Hot old pirate lady
with huge titties.
Massive booba.
Huge titties.
And a battle axe anchor that's also a gun.
Yeah, yes, sir. This chick's crazy.
Yeah, the artist was like, let me cook. And then he did.
I got you, bud. Oh, she also has one arm like biking.
Oh, I didn't even notice she only had one arm. Yeah.
She's just biking this is old lady pirate biking.
Yeah, it's just
I
just gilf biking.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Anyway,
I want like a pirate remix of Mirror of the World. I just want to hear the Nandabu in
but
fucking
like Yarhar pirate speak. Yeah. But I will say the thing that's really cool about these example villains they give is they give them tactics to use and they tell you straight up how to play them. Thought that was very cool. So the one I just wanted to actually look at is the dragon, because dragons. So
I'm not a huge fan of the art for the dragon. It's kind of stumpy.
The pose is awkward.
His arms and legs are super tiny.
Yeah, I think it's part of that is the weird pose. But anyway, so the flame dragon is the example it gives. It's a fire attuned dragon. It's a minor villain, so it's got 5 ultimate points, and it's a champion 4, which means it's 4 soldiers worth of characters. Going back to the, essentially it's 4 minions smushed into one creature, which means it also gets 4 turns. On their first turn in the first round, the Flame Dragon uses Thundering Roar to inflict the Shaken status. On their first turn of other rounds, I thought this was very funny, they use Gift of Flame to enchant an enemy weapon, making it useless. Because the dragon has an ability where they make a weapon do fire damage, but it's immune to fire damage. So you put Gift of Flame on the PC sword so they can't hurt the dragon. Thought that was very funny. The dragon first targets weapons dealing ice damage. If they're none, pick one randomly. If they lack mind point, the dragon uses its turn to protect themselves with. If they lack mind points, they use their turn to protect themselves with a guard action. On their second turn, the flame dragon attacks with Draconic Breath if they are airborne and have enough mind points. If not, they use Rending Claw. On the third turn, the flame dragon attacks with Piercing Fangs. On their fourth turn, the flame dragon attacks with Draconic Breath if they have mind points. Otherwise, they go back to the claws. The flame dragons should always pick their targets randomly, not because they're incapable of strategy, but give the feeling of facing a massive force of nature. Also, remember that despite being melee attack, Rending Claw and Piercing Fang do not expose the dragon to counter attacks if the dragon is flying, unless the attacked character is also flying or armed with a melee weapon that can target them. If the flame dragon is, I thought this is also a good note. If the flame dragon is fighting outside their lair, they spend an ultimate point to safely leave the scene as soon as they fall to 90 HP or less. If they're in their lair, however, they will defend until their very last breath. And then in non-combat conflicts, the dragon relies on their bulk and ability to fly to dominate the scene. In social situations, their reverential fear and deep knowledge make them impossible to bait with. Cowed or humble, most people will simply do as the dragon commands without much resistance. If facing more valiant, that's a typo. The flame dragon does not hesitate to intimidate them with their thunderous roar. So, breakdown of like how to play them, what they do, bang, boom, bang, and then you have their stat block. They have their 2 basic attacks. They have their Draconic Breath, which is, it's their breath weapon. It's what you would expect. They have their Thunderous Roar, which is choose a number of creatures they can see. Each of those creatures suffers the shaken condition. No save, by the way, because saves are not a thing in this game. They have their Gift of Flame ability I talked about, where they get something causes fire damage. And then their special rules. When the flame dragon enters crisis for the first time in a scene, they recover 20 hit points, recover from all status effects, lose the hardened scale special rule, and increase their might die size by 1 until the end of the scene. The hardened scale special rule being, as long as they're airborne, the flame dragon has resistance to all damage except ice. So they lose that resistance once they get to below half health, which is cool because it means like you withered them down and now you can beat them into submission more. Fuel to the fire. When the dragon loses 30 or more HP from a single source, their next use of Draconic Breath will deal 5 extra damage. This effect stacks every time a source causes the dragon to lose 30 or more HP. The damage of the next breath will increase by 5 until they finally unleash the Draconic Breath. So if you punch him in the face really hard, he's going to punch you back next turn very hard.
Yeah.
As long as they're airborne, oh no, I read that one. And then Rain of Fire, as long as the flame dragon is not in crisis, the cost of their draconic breath is 10 times TMP, and its target becomes up to 2 creatures. Wait, TMP? Is it 10 times target MP? No, 10 times. I'm not sure what it means.
Yeah, I think it's target MP. Yeah, and it's target. Yeah. They call out the word target several times, so I'm assuming it means target.
Yeah, I guess so. That's weird. And then referential fear. Shaken creatures suffer a -2 penalty to accuracy checks and opposed checks performed against the dragon. So that's like a high level. That's a level 20 champion monster. So to get an idea for like how monsters can get cool and interesting in this game, that's a pretty good breakdown. And then it gives you a couple of examples of how you can do other, like an ice dragon, a stone dragon, a storm dragon, or a divine dragon. Question though. Did you look at the very last antagonist listed?
You're talking about Maximilian?
No.
Or no, Tragedia.
Tragedia.
I did not know. I mean, I saw that its stat block is strategy stat is humongous.
Humongous. It's a giant,
huge.
I can't even describe the art of this thing. It's basically a giant Eldritch Horror spaced beast, and it's the concept of tragedy in life, basically. And there's an art piece of it where the hero in the foreground is like, I don't know, as big as its foot, maybe. Not that it has feet per se, but the closest thing to a foot. And it has multiple phases. So it has like 4 different stat blocks that it rotates between and changes into, as well as all the crazy humongous abilities associated with that. I'm not gonna read the whole thing because it's a lot, and it's time.
It's fucking nuts.
It's wild. Like, if you want to know what the absolute limit of how crazy this game gets, this Tragedia thing is fucking crazy. Like, it has multiple phases and stat blocks, and it explains how it switches between the phases, and it changes its level and shit. Like, all this shit.
6 pages.
Yeah, it's 6 pages. It's 6 pages of a boss. It's 6 pages and basically 4 stat blocks.
Yeah, it's fucking insane. There's I've been saying that a lot. I'll be like, oh, it's nuts. This is like
this thing's wild.
It's I do not have the words.
Yeah, it's hard to describe, but yeah, if you want, go buy the high fantasy book and scroll to the very bottom and look at Tragedia. It's crazy. And it's level 60, so it's also beyond max level of what players can do. It is.
I do like that they gave you one of those, just like this is
the final boss.
The big, yeah.
Yeah. Maximilian is cool though, as an aside. He's basically just like Julius Caesar or like Alexander the Great.
Yeah, he's like Theseus from fucking Hades.
Theseus, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I saw it and I immediately started doing the Dante combo.
What?
The Dante combo video he did way back. Or Dante's bread and butter in MVC3.
Who did?
He's like, let's rock!
I don't know what you're referring to, but okay.
Oh my god, I'm positive it's Maximilian, dude.
Probably. Anyway, well, actually, that's the end of the book. It ends with the fucking humongous Tragedia.
Yeah.
The Eldritch Horror. I wish I could describe the art of this thing, but like, how do you describe that?
You really don't.
I got nothing. I got nothing. It's a bunch of shapes floating together with eyeballs and chains and shit. It's a fucking biblically accurate angel demon.
It looks like no one played this game but me and Twin. It looks like one of the epitaphs from the Dot Hat games. Just this sort of like mannequin-esque creature made of objects. Like it looks in some ways kind of like an inhabited doll, but at the same time is made of really abstract anatomy that you really can't place, but you sort of understand what it's supposed to be.
Sure, we could go with that. I bet I have no better descriptor than that. Yeah. The art is cooked on this guy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Understood the assignment of awful Eldritch Horror. That has been the High Fantasy Atlas for Fabula Ultima. And yeah, like I said, because this source book feels like a very natural extension of the base game, I think it'd be pretty easy to slap all of the rules that this added into the base game without much conflict, with the exception of the 0 powers. I think those ones you have to consider a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So with that in mind,
Uh-huh.
I think you got to do Tech Fantasy now.
I wasn't planning on it, but we can, maybe.
We can't do one expansion and not do the other.
Maybe. We'll think about it. discuss off air. All right. That's been us. I mean, I don't know if you have any closing opinions on this, but
a book cool? Like,
yeah, book cool. Like, this is exactly when I want a source book, this is roughly how I want a source book to be, is like this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hard agree, yeah.
Like, there's some narrative bits, there's some advice stuff, but there's some good meaty mechanical shit in there, and the advice and the narrative stuff ties into the mechanical shit well. It's not just like a shitty setting book with like a paragraph on every town and that's it, or what, you know what I mean? I'm not shitting on anyone in particular, but I might be shitting on someone in particular. I don't know, maybe I'm talking about D&D.
I wonder who.
Anyway, yeah, excellent supplement book. That's been us. I forgot to say this before, but if you got to the end here, please hit subscribe. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Play Fabula Ultima, and everyone someone make the band party and tell us how it goes, because I really want to fucking know.
The band party does seem great.
All right. I feel like if you run Fabula, we got to do that one.
Maybe. I like that you're assuming I'm going to run this. Maybe.
I'm going to be honest. This is one of those games where you get in, like, you've already, in my opinion, hit the bottom. Like, you've gone down the rabbit hole.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah. Look, I know you. We've known each other for almost 10 years. I know what you're like.
Not quite 10, but fair enough.
I said almost, motherfucker.
More like 6, I'm pretty sure.
We met in 2016, my guy.
I don't know if that's true. Anyway.
Brother, we met in my freshman year of college. I went to school in 2016.
It's fine. We don't need to fact check this right now. But, okay.
Oh, my God.
Hit the end pause button or Brett's going to shoot us. Hit the end pause button.
Peace, motherfuckers.
Hit the end record
button. Hit the stop recording button.
Hit the button.
My God.
Jesus Christ.
Holy shit. Shit show through and through. Peace, motherfuckers.